Shrayer, Maxim D, is a bilingual Russian-American author, translator, and literary scholar, and a professor of Russian, English, and Jewish studies at Boston College. About Maxim D. Shrayer was born and grew up in Moscow, USSR, in the family of the writer David Shrayer Petrov, and the translator Amelia Shrayer. Together with his parents he spent almost 9 years as a refusenik before immigrating to the U.S. in the summer of 1987. Shrayer attended Moscow University, Brown University, Rutgers University, and Yale University. Since 1996 he has been teaching at Boston College, where he is presently a professor of Russian, English, and Jewish studies. Shrayer lives in Brookline, Mass. with his wife, Karen E. Lesser, a medical researcher, and the 2 daughters. Critical, biographical writing and literary translations. Shrayer has authored, co-authored, edited, or co-edited more than 10 books in English and Russian. He has translated into English works by over 40 writers, including 3 books of fiction by his father, which he edited and co-translated: Jonah and Sarah, Autumn in Yalta, and Dinner with Stalin. A noted scholar of Vladimir Nabokov, Ivan Bunin, Jewish Russian literature, and Soviet literature of the show. Shrayer has published extensively on émigré culture and various aspects of multilingual and multicultural identities in 19th and 20th century literature. His book, Russian Poet Soviet Jew, was the first study focused on Jewish literary identity in the early Soviet decades. With his father Shrayer co-authored the first book about the avant-garde poet Genrikh Sapkir, for the 2-volume anthology of Jewish Russian literature, 2 Centuries of a Dual Identity in Prose and Poetry, 1801 to 2001. Shrayer received the National Jewish Book Award. In 2012, Shrayer was awarded a Guggenheim Fellowship for his research on Jewish poets and witnesses to the show, a topic he investigated in his book One Sorite Ilya Selvinsky and the Legacy of Bearing Witness to the Show, and in recent articles. Literary career. Unlike most representatives of the so-called new wave of Russian-American writing, Maxim D. Shrayer had written and published extensively in his native Russian prior to having made a transition to writing prose predominantly in English. Shrayer began to write poetry and prose in his native Russian at the age of 18 and subsequently contributed it to Russian-language magazine abroad and in the former USSR. His Russian-language poetry has been gathered in 3 collections. At Brown University, Shrayer majored in comparative literature and literary translation and studied fiction writing with John Hawkes. Around 1995, the year when he received a Ph.D. in Russian literature from Yale University, Shrayer transitioned to writing creative prose in English. His stories, essays and memoirs have since appeared in American, Canadian, and British magazines, among them Agni, Kenyan Review, and Southwest Review. Shrayer's poetry and prose have been translated into Japanese, German, Croatian, Italian, Chinese and other languages. Shrayer's literary memoir, Waiting for America, A Story of Emigration, appeared in 2007 as the first literary book in the English language to capture the experience of Soviet Jewish émigrés and former refuseniks waiting in Italy en route to the New World. Of Waiting for America, Sam Cole wrote in the Providence Journal that the glory of this book lies in Shrayer's sinuous, neo-Proustian prose. Beautifully fluid and perceptive with its luminous shocks of recognition, landscapes, descriptions and asides, tales and mesmerize and delight. Shrayer's Leaving Russia, a Jewish story, chronologically a prequel to Waiting for America, came out in 2013 and was a finalist of the National Jewish Book Awards. Annette Gendler wrote in Jewish Book World that Maxim D. Shrayer's stunning memoir is an engaging story of growing up as the son of Jewish intellectuals in Moscow who applied for emigration when he was 10 to give him a future as a Jew. Leaving Russia should be assigned reading for anyone interested in the Jewish experience of the 20th century. Shrayer's collection of stories, Yom Kippur in Amsterdam, was published in 2009. Of Yom Kippur in Amsterdam, Leah Strauss wrote in Booklist. This intricate, thoughtful collection explores the inexorable complexities of relationships and religion. Shrayer's 8 delicate stories trace his characters' diverse struggles against the limits of tradition and culture. Reviewing the collection in Multicultural Review, Eva Martin Satori remarks that a sense of longing suffuses all the stories. The exquisitely precise vocabulary manages to locate these characters in the present. Books. Literary works in English. Leaving Russia, A Jewish Story. Syracuse University Press, 2013. Yom Kippur in Amsterdam. Stories. Syracuse University Press, 2009. Waiting for America, A Story of Emigration. Syracuse University Press, 2007. Russian translation. Selected books of criticism and biography. Bunin and Nabokov, A History of Rivalry. Moscow. Alpina Nonfiction, 2014. In Russian. I Saw It. Ilya Selvinsky and the Legacy of Bearing Witness to the Show. Boston. Academic Studies Press, 2013. Genrik Sapger. Avant-Garde Classic. St. Petersburg. Dmitrij Bulanin, 2004. In Russian. Nabokov. Themes and Variations. St. Petersburg. Academic Project, 2000. In Russian. Russian poet, Soviet Jew. The Legacy of Eduard Bagritsky. Lanham, M.A. and London. Roman and Littlefield, 2000. The World of Nabokov's Stories. Austin, Texas. University of Texas Press, 1998. Anthologies. An Anthology of Jewish Russian Literature. 2 Centuries of Dual Identity in Prose and Poetry, 1801 to 2001. 2 vols. R. Monk, N.Y., M.E. Sharp, 2007. A detailed list of Shrayer's books and publications is found at his Boston College website and at Shrayer's official site. Selected interviews. Growing Up Refusnik, a Q&A with Maxim D. Shrayer on his new memoir. Interview with the Voice of Russia. Interview with author Maxim D. Shrayer. Iowa by Bez Svoi Ruski Iazykotl Dotla. Pisat, po anglийski ili po ruski, fy sudbar, I Bibor. Videos. Maxim D. Shrayer discusses his book. In a 2014 video on YouTube, Maxim D. Shrayer discusses his book, Leaving Russia. In a 2013 video on YouTube, Maxim D. Shrayer discusses his book, One Saw It. In a 2013 video on YouTube, Maxim D. Shrayer discusses his book, Waiting for America. In a 2011 video on YouTube, Maxim D. Shrayer discusses his book, Yom Kippur in Amsterdam. In a 2011 video on YouTube, Maxim D. Shrayer in the Encyclopedia of Russian America, 2011. Selected news features. American Productivity, The Boston Globe. Tales of a Totalitarian State. Newton author helps chronicle Soviet Union life. Destiny. A poet writes in his father's words. In other words, the translator's double life. Ruski Idut, New Life.